whatever the building is. Every school district is different, how they set these up, so sometimes there's even just a 3-4 building. We do individualized lessons for each grade, and it comes along with a curriculum that each grade has specific lesson plans that go with the curriculum. So, but they all complement each other. So the kindergarten, first, second, third, all the way up, that first lesson is pretty much all the same except the grade, it's just for depending on what grade they're in. About 45 minutes. Our assembly actually is a music video of the day's events, and then we have a presentation of a Be Nice flag, and there's a initiative that goes on with the older students. And then our middle school is formed around a leadership chapter. So a middle school will join and they will become a middle school chapter. And then it's up to this club organization within that school to spread the message of Be Nice. In this, the curriculum is how do you create an assembly to go with it, and how do you present this assembly back to your student body. So that's a key ingredient. And the high school is very similar to that. So when we look at bullying, we have to really take a look at what it actually is. And so that is sometimes where even parents don't quite understand what this whole thing is that we're talking about, and why school districts have to have rules about bullying, and why there's a law in the state of Michigan around this. But we know that it is repeated occurrences, and it is intentional. It is not by accident. The child who bullies wants to harm someone, and it can be either physical or emotional, which we'll go over the different levels in a minute. We know that it's been around for as long as we can remember, and now what they're doing, like everything, they are doing scientific research around the subject of bullying. And so ultimately the scientific research is leading them back to what really is going on tragically is that kids are leaving schools, dropping out of schools, kids are taking their lives because of this thing that can trigger someone's mental health on how they're thinking, acting, and feeling. Media attention to tragic deaths who were victims of bullying has raised a lot of awareness. I don't know if anyone here saw the movie Bully. Did y'all, can you raise your hand if you saw it? Okay. It'd be a great movie for y'all to watch. There's a condensed version too. It's a 1 hour, and then, but I thought it's worth it, don't you think? And it really, the star of the movie, he has Asperger's, and so it really gives you that whole look at that illness also, and then the discussion around it is just awesome. We showed it at a middle school. We're in year 3 with Be Nice in some schools, so they've done their assembly, they've been doing things. So last year we watched the movie Bully and really talked about that character and how sometimes with certain illnesses you don't even know that people are being so mean to you. You don't even know you're so your social skills are so different, and as you would know that, especially here at your school. So it's a great movie. Again, that last part, we know that things are just so complex with the way global communication is now, that people that are on social media, it's a great thing, but then on the other hand, it's a tool that if it's misused can be very hurtful and extremely, it can have an effect on someone's mental health. So we know that people can be exposed to bullying 24/7, and that would be through different social media networks. To name some would be Facebook and Twitter, and of course texting. We can watch it even on TV. I saw yesterday, I was in shock over the weekend, that someone who was running for the governor in the state of Missouri, did anybody hear that? Actually took his life. And so he took his life because of depression. I mean, ultimately, that is why someone dies by suicide, is because they were depressed and did not get treatment. But ultimately, he had been really harassed through the media, whether it be, and you know, as we know, politicians can put themselves out there. I don't know why we think that everybody needs to handle all this stuff, but they began to get really negative about his family background, his history, his ethnicity. And so he actually called the media himself and said, I'm ready to be interviewed today at 2:30, and come on over to my house. And actually 7 minutes after he left that voicemail to a reporter, he actually took his life. So again, we know that people can be exposed 24/7. So what we like to look at, and this is where we formulate our whole initiative around Be Nice, is that you have a bully and a victim, and normally there will be one bully. The bully has a lot of power, and they can get other people behind them and rally them, but ultimately you have all of these other great folks, and we specifically make them pink dots just because of the pink period at the end of Be Nice, and they would be the bystanders. And so Be Nice, the idea behind it is to get momentum from these kids that really understand that it's a bad situation when somebody is being treated poorly and unkindly, and that if we rally behind that person, more power in numbers can help that person. So we teach around a book called One. Has anybody ever heard of that book? It's an awesome just picture book for elementary school, but we read it all the way up until 8th grade because it really has a meaning behind it. And ultimately in the book, someone rises to the top where they are the one and makes a change amongst all of the other characters in the book. And ultimately at the end of the book, the bully even counts in the numbers. They kind of turn into numbers, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all these. So it's really cool. But that's what Be Nice likes to focus on is that bystander. That how would you feel? How do people feel when they're treated unkindly? How do you feel to watch this happen to someone? And most kids will identify that they don't want to be picked on themselves, so they go along with things. So children at risk of being bullied, and there's no single factor that puts a child at risk, and it can happen anywhere, as we know. It's different everywhere, it really is. So if you go out into the suburbs, the bullying can be totally different than it happens here on the west side of town in Grand Rapids, and it can be totally different at Campus Elementary School, which also does Be Nice. So everywhere is different, but we know that it's intentional. We know that it can happen anywhere, and we know that depending on some environments, some groups, especially, and I put that in there, youth with disabilities, can be at risk to be bullied. And a lot of it is social isolation, acting different. It's not right, but this is what happens. So, generally kids who are bullied have one or more of the following risk factors. They're perceived as different. I'm going to stand up here. I can't decide where I want to stand. From their peers, they could be overweight, underweight. Yes, it could revolve around what they look like. Their different clothing, being new to a school, what they can afford, what they can't afford. They're perceived as weak and unable to defend themselves. They are depressed, anxious, or have low self-esteem. It doesn't mean every kid that has low self-esteem is going to be bullied, but this puts them at risk. They are less popular than others and might have fewer friends, and they might not get along with others. They could be seen as annoying. So sometimes with an illness like ADD, ADHD, that puts them at risk because their behavior can be so different from others, and people can begin to pick on them. However, even if a child has these risk factors, again, it does not mean that they will be bullied. There's a lot of protective factors. There are 2 types of kids who are more likely to bully others, and those would be kids that are well connected to their peers. They have social power. They might be overly concerned about their popularity, and that might be coming from home and pushing how many friends do you have, do they all like you, and pushing kids to have friends. Others might be isolated from their peers, and again, throughout the whole presentation, I'm going to keep mentioning the word depressed and anxious. Have low self-esteem, be less involved in school, and for some kids, we know, that's a big one, be easily pressured by other peers to try to fit in. So sometimes bullies will also find other bullies to have them do their dirty work also. Again, who are at risk to bully others, kids that are aggressive or easily frustrated, and a lot of times that goes hand in hand with boys. And so boys tend to get frustrated and show their frustration through anger. kids that have less parental involvement or might have issues going on at home. They think badly of others, they have difficulty following rules, they view violence in a positive way, they have friends who bully others, and again, those who bully do not need to be stronger or bigger than those that they bully. The power imbalance comes from those other things: popularity, strength, cognitive ability. So what type of forms of bullying do we have? And so when you look at this, I like to try to remember back when I was in high school, which I went to Union High School. And back then, we really looked at bullying the physical end. And so people would go right to the office and they'd be kicked out and in trouble. But really, these other things, and through scientific research again, they have found all these other ways to bully. So something like property damage or theft can be a form of bullying. And so that would be even starting just with somebody hiding someone's erasers or hiding things that are special to them. And then watching that person from a distance agonize at how they're losing things, okay? And so with these kids, sometimes they're afraid to tell anybody that they're losing these things because they could be telling on that person, which might get the bully in trouble. And then also, they might be blamed for losing things all the time. It's horrible. Verbal bullying, and that would include teasing, mocking, and name calling, verbal humiliation in front of other friends. And so sometimes kids might make up nicknames for each other, and that could be always something to check out. Are you comfortable with that nickname, or is that something that you allow them to call you? And sometimes that's just one form where it might just start. Social and relational bullying, and that would be gossiping, public humiliation, embarrassment, rumor spreading, alienation, exclusion from groups, and setting one another up to take the blame for something. And so again, that can happen at all different levels. And so this presentation even can relate to adults also. Okay, so I look at this right now, and there was a lot of bullying going on of this potential governor of Missouri. I mean, that guy was probably in his 60s. So this can happen at every level. The worst, and it gets worse as we go down, are the cyber and electronic bullying, which that can happen over the internet. And so there's many ways that people can do this, and that's why there is a new law coming into effect in the state of Michigan around cyberbullying. I know Grand Rapids Public, I think they were looking at their law, and in the first bully law that came about, Matt Safe School Law, about a year and a half ago, they had put in there things about cyberbullying. So everybody has to have themselves covered. Social and relational bullying are experienced the most often. So in addition, there's more signs, and this could be a student that has unexplainable injuries, lost or destroyed clothing, books, electronic things, just things that might be special to them, and they might come up and tell you that this thing was stolen, and don't jump to the conclusion to think, oh, you're just misplacing it again, because there always can be an investigation behind it where somebody is trying to mess with their head. Frequent headaches and stomach aches, that goes hand in hand with depression and anxiety. So if someone is coming to school every day, not wanting to be here right at the beginning of the day, it could have something to do with something that's going on. Changes in their eating habits, and again, kids could go home hungry. I mean, if you get a phone call from a parent that says, why is my kid hungry every day? There could be bullying going on at lunchtime where somebody could be spitting in someone's lunch, messing with their lunch, pouring milk into their lunch, just taking odd things and throwing it in, and that child might be fearful of telling anybody what's going on. Difficulty sleeping or frequent nightmares, and we know that we all don't go under solid sleep every night, and there is a point where you're in your sleep pattern and where you wake up and you can't get back to sleep. So if kids are coming to school exhausted and tired, it could mean that they're not getting enough sleep due to anxiety. Declining grades, loss of interest in their school, sudden loss of friends and avoiding situations, feelings of helplessness, decreased self-esteem, and ultimately we know that the worst part about it would be self-destructive behaviors, running away, harming themselves, or talking about suicide. And so we can't rule out that kids here at your school, children in general, are at risk to think about killing themselves and actually